You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
There were specific designations for places where the voting was expanded to, and schools were not one of them.
A ban on early voting on college campuses is the state playing games to suppress young people from voting. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohn, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on voting on college campuses in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. If you are waiting for the Sarasota School District and the Sheriff's Department to get on the same page when it comes to school security, good luck with that. In our latest episode, the two sides are clashing over the county's biggest high school, Riverview. A conversation between the sheriff and county commissioners about next year's budget quickly turned into a talk about school security. Sheriff Tom Knight expressing his frustration with the school district and a lack of communication. Sheriff Knight's latest concern, Superintendent Todd Bowden, wants to pull a school resource officer from Riverview High School, the district's largest high school, to save money.
The parents at Riverview High School are watching. They should have some real grave concerns because they want to scale back from 2 to 1 deputy at Riverview High School, which is the same school that post-Parkland, the school district asked for 2 additional deputies to put 4 on that campus.
Sheriff Knight has agreed to meet with the school board on June 28th, and the county administrator will join him. The sheriff says he won't agree to an 80-20 split cost of school resource officers if Riverview is going to be losing an SRO. A local citizens group is threatening to sue the city of Sarasota. The group STOP just sent this letter to Sarasota's attorney saying that he wants to enforce the zoning code. The group claims the city doesn't notify nearby residents about major projects. Of 16 downtown projects in the last 5 years, STOP says 9 of them have not paid the required site plan fees or notify the neighbors of a large building would be going up.
If we don't all, as a community, figure out how to make things work a little bit better, ultimately, we're not going to be this wonderful place that has attracted so many people.
The city says that his attorney has received the letter and is currently reviewing its policies. Florida's 5 Democratic gubernatorial candidates plan to pause their campaigns on Saturday to take part in a march protesting the separation of undocumented immigrant children from their families at the southern U.S. border. Gwen Graham, Philip Levine, Chris King, Jeff Green, and Andrew Gillum all say they will attend a protest outside the federal detention facility in Homestead, which is currently housing an estimated 1,000 minors.
These little babies, kids, who are torn away from their parents, seeking asylum here in the United States. We're supposed to be the gold standard.
We'll have more on this story coming up in primetime headlines. Mayor Gillum also speaking out against Attorney General Jeff Sessions for using the same Bible passage to justify separating migrant children from their parents as slave owners used to justify slavery. Gillum said using the Bible to justify a morally bankrupt policy is, quote, despicable, deplorable, and heartless, and it's not who we are as a country. Sessions cited Romans 13 saying, obey the laws of the government because God has ordained them for the purpose of order. Slave owners use the very same verse to defend slavery. Now let's head over to meteorologist Wendy Ross.
Alan, we had seen some heavier showers taking place about an hour ago, and now things have really begun to wind down across the west coast of Florida, and we are seeing some showers still taking place out there, but most of the activity is now moving off towards the east, and you can see this line of showers now that started over in this direction, now over the central part of the state, and it continues to move off towards the east coast. And we're left with some cloudiness here along the west coast of Florida, but most of the rain and the thunderstorms are pretty much over at this time. So if you're planning a stroll out on the beach, it's a good time to do that because things are going to be quiet, at least at the beaches. We don't have to worry about any more rain. Northport is just getting some lighter showers that are taking place right now. And we did have some thunderstorms earlier. That has now all come to an end. So we are looking at some possibility of those thunderstorms still developing well east and over the central part of the state, moving on away. today. So yesterday, if you recall, we had some drier air that moved on in, and it really inhibited the rain chances. However, we now have more moisture coming on through, and so that moisture is helping to develop those showers that we saw. And then tomorrow we get a little bit of a change as far as our weather pattern is concerned. We're going to start to see winds coming in out of the west, and this is going to help to form showers along the coastline during the morning hours. But for tonight, the rains are pretty much coming to an end. Alan?
Registered voters can cast their ballots early at certain malls, libraries, and government buildings on the Suncoast. But although it only makes total sense, don't try voting early on the college campus. It is banned throughout the state. ABC7's Erica Jackson joins us to share why one group is challenging this law. Erica.
Alan, thank you. The Florida League of Women Voters, along with several college students, are suing the state. They claim Secretary of State Ken Detzner is misinterpreting the law and call the ban unconstitutional.
It's not a place you would normally think for students to go and vote.
A college campus isn't the first place Eric Arroyo would want to go to cast his ballot for early voting. He wouldn't be able to anyway, since a ban went into effect in 2014 prohibiting the use of college buildings for voting ahead of Election Day.
There were specific designations for places where the voting was expanded to, and schools were not one of them. But it's not because they were trying to exclude anyone, it's because they just weren't included. And there's a process for that in the legislature.
Florida's League of Women Voters and several college students filed a lawsuit against the state last month, stating the ban violates the First and 14th Amendments. It also claims the interpretation of the law denies equal access to those who live and work on college campuses, including young voters.
We have a lot of young people who are registering to vote for the very first time, many of whom will get onto college campus, maybe living at a dormitory, go to vote early and find out they can't do that on campus.
Florida League of Women Voters President Patty Brigham says many college students have limited accessibility to early voting sites off campus.
They may not have a way to get to an early voting place. They may not have a car. It might be way out of the way. We want to encourage our young people to engage in the civic process.
They argue that there's sometimes transportation constraints, and so it's an undue burden to force them to go to a smaller number of sites.
But will lifting the ban make a difference in the turnout of young voters? According to the Sarasota County Supervisor of Elections Office, only 4% of voters in the 2014 gubernatorial election were between 18 and 29. More than half were over 65. New College of Florida political science professor Frank Alcock says the lawsuit could change that number.
It's pretty clear that if you put early voting opportunities on the campuses of colleges and universities, you're probably going to get more college students that act to vote.
You've just been incredibly energized because of what you've seen in Parkland. You know that votes matter.
Allowing early voting on college campuses likely won't benefit one political party over another, at least when it comes to Sarasota County. The supervisor of elections says there are only 6 more Democrats than Republicans aged 18 to 29 in Sarasota County. But Brigham believes the ban is denying the young voters in both parties an easy way to cast their ballots.
We want to encourage our young people to engage in the civic process. And the state should be doing everything it can to do so.
Alcock believes the League of Women Voters has merit in their case, but doesn't think students' voting rights are completely removed with the ban.
On Election Day, you are allowed, so there will be a voting opportunity for students on Election Day on campus.
Arroyo says the plaintiffs are going about their case in the right way, but can't help but notice the irony in the timing.
I'm just concerned that they waited 4 years to try to find the interpretation of this law when we've had many elections and now they're waiting for the gubernatorial year.
Florida law still permits the use of public-owned buildings like community centers and stadiums for early voting. But for now, college campuses will continue to be out of the question.
Erica, thanks a lot. We'll discuss more. Meet me at the trapezoid.
It's summer on the Sun Coast, and you know what that means. It's Friday Fest season.
And you are invited. Join ABC7 for the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall's free outdoor summertime concert series.
Jam to dance music by Ja Movement on June 22nd. The Movement is sure to get you dancing.
With food trucks, beverage vendors, and more, it's the perfect spot to enjoy great music and a summer sunset over the bay.
For more information, go to this number or go to mysuncoast.com/FridayFest.
It fell off the roof of my car.
It fell out of my backpack.
Oh, it fell off my grocery cart.
I tossed it to a really clumsy friend.
I tripped while jogging.
My 2-year-old had a temper tantrum.
It bounced down 2 flights of stairs.
No matter how you broke your smartphone, there's only one smart way to fix it. Batteries plus bulbs.
I dropped it on the floor, and he stepped on it.
Schedule your repair at batteriesplus.com.
Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP is the largest locally owned CPAP supply company in the area. Is it time to replace your old equipment? The staff at Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP can show you the most up-to-date CPAP equipment and supplies to meet your sleep apnea needs, including portable travel devices and the SoClean automatic CPAP sanitizer. We serve all of Southwest Florida, giving the highest quality of care with the finest CPAP equipment. Please visit our website, sarasotacpap.com.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-604-0398.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-604-0398. Or visit SoClean.com today.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back. We want to encourage people to participate in our democracy and vote, right? The United States has some of the lowest turnout in the so-called civilized world, just over 55%. As for millennials, just over 49%. Then why in the world is the state of Florida trying to ban early voting on college campuses, forcing college kids to go off campus to cast their ballots? The League of Women Voters is suing. Is it politics? Fear younger voters are more likely to vote for one particular party? Joining us for more are Frank Alcock, political science professor at New College, Mikhail Sandstrom of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Alex Hanacki, a young Sarasota Democrat. And Frank, let me start with you. It was the administration of the governor, Rick Scott, that banned voting on college campuses for early voting a couple of years ago. Was that done, do you believe, for political reasons? Is he opposing the lawsuit now also to prevent Democrats from voting on college campuses?
Let me try to get to this quickly and separate the case itself, which stems from a change or an update in the 2013 law about voting and expanding it, early voting opportunities, in a decision made by Detzner in 2014, which disqualified college campuses from that expansion, and the general politics behind it. On a variety of different issues, there are demographic groups that vote disproportionately for Republicans that are very reliable in terms of turnout. There are demographic groups that disproportionately vote for Democrats that are unreliable. And so there is, besides the civic interest we have in increasing voting, there is an interest on the part of Democrats in making it easy. There's an interest on the part of, a partisan interest on the part of Republicans putting hurdles in the way.
And we're going to get more into that in our next segment. But Mikhail, let me ask you, there are some people I talked to today, I'll name him as Greg, who said, what's wrong with people, young people having to walk off campus and vote early?
I think, personally, I believe that early voting on campuses should occur. However, the lawsuit seems to be timely to perhaps undermine the governor's Senate runs. But having said that, I believe that as long as they have the same standards from regular early polling and it doesn't become a hostile environment on college campuses, I think it's actually a good idea.
And let me ask you real quick, you're getting out of high school. How many of your classmates do you think are going to vote in the fall elections?
I don't think not a lot of classmates will, and probably the reason is they're registered to vote in Sarasota County and they don't know how to transfer their registration somewhere else.
Okay, we are just getting warmed up on our conversation on voting on college campuses, and it continues right after we get a check on the first look at weather. Meteorologist Wendy Ross. Wendy.
Hello, Alan. We're looking at partly cloudy skies out there. We don't have a whole lot of rain anywhere across our viewing area. Things have really stalled out right now. As we take a quick look at radar, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Most of the wet weather has now moved over the central part of the state, and it's being pushed away from the coastline by westerly winds that have started to pick up just a little bit, 5 to 10 miles per hour. And so what we're looking at are those heavier thunderstorms that we had earlier tonight. They're on their way out. So we are finally starting to see these showers abating, and we are being left with partly cloudy skies. It's still very humid out there. It's very muggy. Dew points are high, and so that is what's creating some of the problems. We had thunderstorms. I just showed you a blank map just a second ago, and that's because all the thunderstorms are gone. And yesterday we did have some drier air that moved on into the state, and that really helped to suppress those thunderstorms that we had yesterday. So today, a slightly different story. We did get the showers coming on in throughout the afternoon hours. However, we're starting to see that high pressure ridge move down to the south, and we have a trough of low pressure that's building over the central part of the state. So we will see more showers back in our forecast, but we're going to get a bit of a switch around because we're going to start to see the morning winds coming in from the Gulf of Mexico from the west rather than the east to the west trip that we normally see. That's the pattern we usually see this time of the year. Tomorrow it's going to shift around, and we'll start to get some showers in the morning hours along the west coast, and they'll push over to the east coast during the afternoon. So things are going to shift around for us starting tomorrow, and that pattern will be repeated over the next couple of days. In the meantime, temperatures are just hot. It's still in the 80s for many locations, and in the upper 80s to near 90 and even 90 degrees, especially over the interior part of the state. Sebring, Lake Placid, each reporting 91, 92 degrees, and then you can see those cooler temperatures along the beaches, 85 in Bradenton and in Sarasota, and that heat index, we're still seeing temperatures that feel as though it's 100 degrees in some places around the state. Across our area, everyone feels as though they're close to 100 degrees. 95 to 97 is what it feels like out there. And that's the combination of heat and humidity. That's what you're experiencing with that feels like temperature. As far as the tropics are concerned, it's quiet in the Gulf, it's quiet in the Caribbean, and it's even quiet out in the Atlantic. So that's good news. We don't have anything that we have to worry about coming off the coast of Africa. And over the next several days, this is what we do have happening. We've got a 30% chance of rain all the way through Sunday. On Monday, we're going to up those chances just a little bit. Temperatures are going to stay right around that 90-degree mark. And I just want to point something out. Tomorrow is the first day of summer. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for the perfect trip that allows you to spend quality time with the family, then discover the great outdoors on an Alabama Black Belt adventure. Create unforgettable memories while hunting, canoeing, camping, and more. Or challenge yourself on Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, now celebrating 25 years. And while you're here, enjoy a Deep South dining experience. Book your adventure in one of our members' lodges or stay at the Renaissance Montgomery Hotel and Spa. Start planning an Alabama Black Belt adventure today.
Everybody can make something.
because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
When ABC7 declares a First Alert Weather Day, it means we can expect major changes to weather conditions here along the Sun Coast.
It means there could be severe, potentially dangerous weather ahead.
We tell you when a First Alert Weather Day is coming because we want you to be prepared.
A First Alert Weather Day is an advance warning. We'll let you know about any changes in the weather when the first signs appear.
ABC7 First Alert Weather, we're here for you. The ABC7 First Alert Weather app just got even better. It's easy to use once you download it. First, tell the app to follow you, so you get alerts pinpointed to exactly where you are. Then customize your settings with all the places you go, from the beach to grandmother's house. Get accurate alerts for everyone you care about. You can even pick which weather alerts and categories you want and what they sound like. More ways to customize and more ways to keep your family safe. Download the ABC7 First Alert Weather app today.
My name is Julius. I have cerebral palsy. I work for Farmer Jeffrey Weising Law Firm. I do a lot of data entry and scanning documents. I want to increase my working experience to make the company much better. At the end of the day, it's good to think of the day's work and to think about what I have accomplished.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to abilitieswork.employflorida.com.
We've all heard how military veterans adjusting to the civilian world may have certain issues.
30. 70.
If only everyone had this issue. No matter what challenge they face, Easter Seals is here for America's veterans.
So why is Florida trying to ban early voting on college campuses? Joining us for more are Frank Alcock, political science professor at New College, Mikhail Sandstrom of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Alex Anaki, a young Sarasota Democrat. So Frank, what is interesting to you about this court case?
The language of the law itself it says that you can have this voting government-owned buildings that are community centers. So a student union on a public university, it's government-owned and it's a community center. So Detzner's decision is a bit strange. So there's a legal challenge to that, but the course of action or the cause of action is interesting. League of Women Voters had said this violates their federal constitutional rights and they want it tried in a federal court. The state will say this decision, you might not agree with it, but it's in the discretion of Detzner to make, and they filed a motion actually 2 days ago saying this is a state law that you're talking about, and therefore you should decide it in a state court, not a federal circuit court. So ultimately this could be decided more on legal procedure than the substance of the issue.
You know, Mikhail, you are a loyal Sarasota Republican. You called the governor's office today to try to get some guidance on this, and what was the response?
I think that they had a prepared statement that they referred me to the website. I have an actual solution than I thought of. You're not allowed to have an early polling station, but what's stopping them from having a booth and handing out early voting mail? Since in 2016, 2/3 early voted by mail. So that's a quick fix of getting between the cracks right there. But ultimately, I think the governor should just go ahead and allow student unions to have early voting.
Even though that could adversely affect his race for Senate?
I think if millennials, there's a generational thing. Millennials and young people want to vote, and if it's a lot easier for the students, I think it's just on a moral level that you should do it.
We have an interesting graphic that I want to put up on the screen in terms of millennial and Gen X voting turnout in the 2016 election, and turnout among millennials and Gen X was actually up, but look at it, a little over 49% for millennials, 62% for Gen X, 68.7% for boomers, and look at that, the greatest generation, over 70% of voters turning out. You know, Alex, you are a newbie voter, you are a millennial. Why do you think that so many of your young people your age are reluctant to go out and vote?
I don't think they're reluctant to go out and vote. I think that their habits differ pretty heavily from, if you look at baby boomers or older generations who were willing to take the time and go in on election day and vote. That's what they're used to. And when I go out and knock doors and talk to voters, a lot of them say, I appreciate that early voting's available and I appreciate that I can vote by mail, but I really like the feeling of going to the polls on election day. Younger people don't care about that feeling as much. They just want to get their vote in and they don't care how.
That's interesting. Frank, let me ask you this, because in Erica's story, she said it would make a much of a difference in Sarasota County, but this is a big state. Could, especially when you look at in terms of voter participation there, could this really be the difference between winning or losing, whether it's Governor Scott or in the governor's race or other races?
Because the statewide elections, and in particular the last couple of governor's races have been decided, they've been so close. They're about a point or so, slightly above one, slightly below the two elections for Governor Scott. Yes, this could make a difference. The percentage of younger millennials or Gen X voters that would vote with early voting that would otherwise not have voted, I don't know what that percentage is, but the size of the demographic, even in the state of Florida, is substantial. And so at the end of the day, again, I'm not sure, but when you're talking about a 1-point election, yes, this could make the difference.
Okay. We are just getting warmed up on our conversation on the state's efforts to ban voting on college campuses, and it will continue right after a quick break.
If you think it's hot outside, just wait until you see even hotter savings inside. Only at Rugs As Art Hot Summer Savings Sale event will you find the lowest prices on a vast selection of stunning rugs, furniture accents, and accessories. This special event only happens once a year, so hurry in before the best selections are gone. The Hot Summer Savings event ends soon, so don't miss out on the best prices ever. Rugs As Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
We answered the call of duty and left our homes to serve in far-off lands. Now we answer another call, this time at home, in our own communities, to respond in times of chaos, to use our strength, our skills, and our experiences to bring hope amid devastation and destruction. Together, as a team of brothers and sisters, we're continuing our mission to make this country a little stronger and a little better each day. We are Team Rubicon.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
The summer sizzles at the Players Center with the opening of Crossing Delancey. City cultures collide in this charming play about a young woman searching for love and the New York dream. Opening June 14th, call 365-2494 or visit theplayers.org. Get your tickets to the perfect romantic comedy, Crossing Delancey.
Soldiers in the Army National Guard serve to give back to their country and communities. Their part-time commitment qualifies them for an array of benefits, such as affordable health and life insurance benefits, education benefits, including tuition assistance, student loan repayment and GI Bill programs, a retirement plan based on part-time service, and VA home mortgages. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about all the benefits available in the Army National Guard.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
You're watching ABC7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back. We are talking about the state's attempt to ban polling places on college campuses in Florida. And joining us for more are Frank Alcock, political science professor at New College, Mikhail Sandstrom of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Alex Anaki, a young Sarasota Democrat. And Frank, let me ask you a follow-up question on something you mentioned before, that the latest news here is the state is trying to move this case from federal court to state court. What difference does it make?
Okay, so this gets back to the Secretary of State, Detzner, his decision. The question that the courts would ask is, of what is this an instance? Is this an instance of our constitutional rights being compromised, or is this an instance of a Secretary of State interpreting a state law in a way that we don't like? Depending upon how you answer that question, that's the venue that you're going to get. And I think that if this is tried within the state court system, I think the administration, Scott administration, is just a little bit more likely to win.
Why? Because is it your position that state judges are more conservative and are more likely to view this the state's way?
A little bit of both. I think the state justice is not everywhere, but I do think the way that it would work out in terms of circuits, it's a little bit more conservative, so they're probably a little kinder in terms of their interpretation to the administration's position. But I also think the administration's on safer ground if this is interpreted as a Secretary of State interpreting a legislative law, as opposed to an issue of constitutional rights being violated.
Mikhail, I would imagine that a lot of our viewers are watching this right now and would be asking somebody like you who are not too many years removed from their college experience and say, what's wrong with young people like yourself having to drive a mile off campus and vote?
I think it has to do with instant gratification. People would rather vote with the cell phone. It's becoming quite difficult for students to, like Alex touched up, is they're not as motivated by the political process. They see the political game as it is, and they don't really care to go out and vote on election day. They simply don't care. So there needs to be more progress and more cooperation between both parties to reach out, and so that they represent youth issues, because a lot of the millennial issues and young issues, the older generation are simply just not seeing eye to eye.
Alex, you and your classmates are going to go out in a few months to the different colleges and universities around Florida and elsewhere, but there are two questions. Number one, what percentage do you think of your classmates are already registered to vote, should it be for the primary or for the general election? And number two, how many of them are going to apply for absentee ballots or re-register in the areas where they are going to schools to vote?
I would say around 90% of them are actually registered to vote, but the number of whom are going to be engaged when they get to college is much smaller, depending on what the local civic organizations do. I actually want to touch back on the difficulty of getting a mile and a half to get to your polling place, which was one of the issues discussed in the lawsuit. At the University of Florida specifically, they're not being allowed to use the Rights Union, which is kind of the major center on campus, to vote, but in fact they have to go to the Alachua County Supervisor of Elections office. They can't get there by public transportation, and a lot of college students simply cannot afford a vehicle or don't have it with them when they go off to college. So for them to have this kind of obstacle where the Supervisor of Elections office isn't accessible by public transportation and they can't vote on campus where it makes the most sense for them to be engaged, I think that's a serious effort by the Scott administration to lower voter turnout, probably because Governor Scott thinks that his Senate race coming up in November is going to be close, and like his gubernatorial races, and just doesn't want to risk young people coming out to the polls and showing their disapproval for the Trump agenda.
I wanted to say, when I went to the University of Central Florida, if you walk from one end of the campus to the other end, it's a long way, probably a mile and a half, probably 2 miles. So I suppose it's different depending on what city you're in. But ultimately, if it's easier for students to vote, I don't think it's going to be against Rick Scott. I don't think it's going to affect that. I think more or less he's upset that the lawsuit was presented now rather than if they had an issue with it, they should have done it 4 years ago.
Really? Because, Frank, I have seen these tactics in other states. I believe North Carolina, there is a case there in the last election that they closed polling places on college campuses, and it was a big deal because it was perceived as a deliberate attempt by the then Republican governor of North Carolina to make it more difficult for kids to vote on college campuses?
As I said at the outset, I think, is this political? I think it's always political. There's a civic issue there that we have in terms of increasing participation, but you put a lot of the particulars aside. Generally speaking, Democrats have an interest in making voting easier, generally speaking, and the Republican Party has a partisan interest in putting hurdles in the way.
Alex, how engaged do you think your classmates are right now, given we live in extraordinary times where the electorate in the country is basically more polarized than any time in your young life or even in my life, in that I see it. Are people paying attention, and is it motivating them to actually do something and vote?
I think they're paying attention, and whether it will actually motivate them to vote, I guess we'll find out in August and November. I think even minute political decisions that might not have gotten attention in prior administrations are really gaining a foothold, whether it's the issue of children being separated at the border, or even U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, determining to pull the U.S. from the UN Human Rights Council. People my age paid attention to that, because if you look at an issue like human rights, why would the U.S. not want to have a real serious seat at the table about that? So people are paying attention. It's just about making sure that they don't have hurdles in their way so they can vote.
Does it make a difference that this is a midterm election and not a presidential election, which is always a big deal?
The turnout's probably going to go down, but you know, when I ran for city commission, I looked at the statistics there. There were more people in their 90s that voted than in their 20s. So that type of mentality, it needs to change, and I think it changes with cooperation. If you disagree with somebody, it's okay to disagree, but do it in a very cordial manner and an honest manner, and not get into this turmoil that is name calling, and it just seems to be, I think that's what's ultimately turning off young people, because by the time you're older, you see the problems. You've been living 50, 60 years, so you see all these problems, and you're concerned much more than somebody that maybe has only paid attention for a short period of time.
So Frank, what is likely to happen next, and how soon will it happen? Because lawsuits generally take a long time, but we have a primary election coming up, a general election in a couple of months. Will this be resolved one way or the other before we get there?
I think so. I think they'll expedite it, but I'm not sure. There might be some games that could be played to draw it out a little bit longer. But my expectation is that we'll have an answer to this in time for, if not the primary, for the general election.
And I don't know if you have the answer to this, but if these suits are somewhat similar to what's happening in other states, what has been decided in terms of other states in terms of polling places on college campuses?
I'm not exactly sure of each decision, if they're consistent across states, but at issue here is a 2013 change to the law, and the language expands that voting opportunities to public buildings that are community centers that are owned by a public institution for Secretary of State Dessner to rule out college campuses. Like I said, it's a strange decision in terms of its interpretation, but there are a lot of legal issues.
And let me ask you one more question here, because your two young fellow citizens here are talking about the ease of voting, whether we could do it on our cell phones or do it online here. Are we moving in that direction, or is it because we are so concerned about security right now, especially after the Russians trying to interfere with voting in 2016, that we're not moving all that fast to other forms or methods of voting?
I think both of those statements are true. I think we're moving more towards increasing the opportunity range, whether it be through absentee voting, mail voting, early voting. And I think there are technological opportunities to make it even easier. At the same time, there's some risk associated with that. We're not exactly at a place where you have high degrees of trust in everything from some of our voting machines to anything that could get hacked. And so we're moving in a direction to make things easier. At the same time, I think we're not moving as fast as we could, and maybe for good reason.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts when we return. Stay with us.
Did you know you could get life insurance for less than 32 cents a day? With Guaranteed Acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage, you can get up to $25,000 in protection with a single phone call. TrueStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you're gone.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments, those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
And even if you're on a fixed income, prices fit your budget, starting at less than 32 cents a day. Plus, your price will never increase and your benefit will never decrease. And with no medical tests or health questions, you cannot be turned down for any reason. Call 1-800-842-7189. Now, for a free, no-obligation quote, TrueStage offers plans to fit your budget. Help protect your family from immediate financial burdens after you're gone with guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage. Call 1-800-842-7189 now.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-604-0398.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-604-0398. Or visit SoClean.com today.
Northland Outdoors is about so much more than the biggest fish or the hottest hunting spots. All across the Northland, there are amazing people with incredible stories to tell. We're going to find those stories and share them with everyone. Join us each and every week as we explore the Northland and experience some of the most exciting outdoor adventures in the country right here in our own backyard. This is Northland Outdoors.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. For Frank, again, what kind of difference do you see this possibly making in the upcoming midterm elections, depending which way this goes?
Just flipping through the numbers in my mind, I don't think this is going to be the difference maker, but you never know given how close our elections are. And it is part of a broader struggle that we've been having in this state and a number of other states around the country with respect to, in one side pushing to making voting easier, another side trying to put some hurdles in the way. I would just love to get to a place where we just had broader participation. Part of that's removing the hurdles, but part of it is for our citizenry to take their civic duty a little bit more seriously and put some time in, not just voting, but engaging the political process more vigorously than they have before. We might be seeing that happen right now, too.
Mikhail, if your party is making the assumption that if more college kids voted, it would be negative to them, why do you think that's a mistaken assumption?
Well, obviously, Governor Scott has his own policy that he's going upon for that. But when you think about a quick solution, like I said, it could just be handing out early voting, handing out absentee ballots on campus. There's no law that's stopping somebody to say, hey, here's an absentee ballot, vote early. So the lawsuit, even if whatever happens, even if it gets tied up and then by the time it's the election time, nothing's happened, they can still do that. So I think it's more speculative as to how it would impact the Republican elections and races, because everyone votes from an individual perspective. Young people have stopped voting from party perspective. They look at it from how they feel, whether somebody pursues life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Alex, you get the final word, and why don't you talk to your classmates and tell them why they should care one way or the other?
I think that young people should care because elections impact us in ways that that might not be immediately apparent. But listen, everyone has a core set of values, and those core sets of values are represented by the politicians that represent us. If you're not voting, you don't have a seat at the table, and if you don't have a seat at the table, then you quite honestly don't have the right or privilege to say that you're upset with the decisions that are being made in Washington or in Tallahassee today. Voting matters, and I think that, going back to the core of this conversation, the decision by the current administration in Tallahassee to restrict voting on college campuses is just trying to take the voices away from young people.
All right, thank you all. We want to thank Frank Alcock, political science professor at New College, Mikhail Sandstrom of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Alex Anaki, a young Sarasota Democrat, for joining us tonight. When we return, President Trump addressing concerns about the children of immigrants being taken from their families. But right now, let's get the final check on our first alert forecast. Right now with meteorologist Wendy Ross.
Alan, we are finally starting to see the sun setting, and it's a beautiful sunset tonight. We don't have the vivid colors that we normally get this time of the evening, but that's because we have not had a whole lot of rain out there. So we're looking at a beautiful sunset all the same, and we are also looking at some partly cloudy skies along the Sun Coast. So you can see the showers, for the most part, have pretty much come to an end. We've got a couple that have now started to make their way west of I-75, and they'll be dying down before the night is over. So we're not expecting to see a whole lot in the way of wet weather developing for the rest of tonight. What we have instead are those showers and thunderstorms that we had east of I-75, pretty much pushing off towards the east coast. And here is the picture I was going to show you that shows nothing. We don't have any thunderstorms around anymore. So yesterday we had that little bit of drier air that moved in. Now today we're getting a lot more moisture showing up. And so as a result, we're also seeing high pressure moving down to the south. In addition to that, we've got a trough of low pressure sitting over the central part of the state, and that's helping to set up some showers that we're getting. And so for the rest of tonight, most of the rains come to an end. But tomorrow we get a weather pattern shift, and that means that we're going to start to see what the winds coming in out of the west, and they're going to form the showers along the coastal sections, and then those showers will move over to the east coast. So we'll get westerly winds in the morning, helping to bring about westerly showers, and those showers will move eastward as the day wears on. So we'll see a reverse pattern taking place. And temperatures are still very, very hot. Most of our readings in the mid to upper 80s. And right now we don't really have any 90s on board, but Mayaca City and Parrish and Northport, you're all reporting temperatures awfully close to 90 degrees. Farther east in Sebring and Lake Placid, temperatures there are rain cooled at 81 and 82 degrees. And it even feels hot still. So we're looking at that feels like temperature, that heat and humidity combined, of almost 100 degrees across the entire region. As far as the tropics are concerned, we don't have any worries here. There's nothing going on out in the Atlantic. We just have a bit of clouds coming off the coast of Africa, but nothing is forming, and we don't have to worry about formation of any kind for the next 24-hour period. If you're traveling anywhere around the nation, keep in mind that it is quite wet still across the eastern sections of Texas, and that's because of all this tropical moisture that's streaming on in from the Gulf of Mexico. It's carrying all the way up into the northern central parts of the country as well. Places like Minneapolis, Chicago is going to start to see some rain. They're getting showers in Cincinnati all the way over to the east coast, and some of those showers are falling across the southeastern coastline too. Temperatures at this hour are mostly in the 70s across the northeast, and look at the contrast of temperatures across the northern tier of the nation, where we have low 80s and 70s, versus what's going on over the southern part of the country, where temperatures here are in the 80s and 90s. So it's very, very hot right now, and tomorrow doesn't get much better, with very hot temperatures over the south and across the north and northeast, much cooler. If you're heading off to the beach tomorrow, winds will be out of the west at 10 knots, seas 1 to 2 feet, a light chop out on the bay, and our temperature at the Gulf will be 87 degrees with some isolated thunderstorms expected. But remember, those showers are going to be heading on towards the east, and this is what we can expect over the next 7 days. We have temperatures that will stay right around that 90-degree mark. Overnight lows will be in the upper 70s, and we're looking at a 30 to 40% chance of rain. The 30% chance starts Thursday through Sunday, a 40% beginning on Monday. And tomorrow is the official start of summer. We'll be right back.
Ever since I can remember, I've been intrigued by industrial design and the optimization.
Wait, that's passion? Ever since I can remember,
My passion has been industrial design. We need 3D printers for Miss Adams' engineering program so that we are ready to solve 21st century challenges.
Impressive. Think It Up is a new initiative to support student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classroom today? Think It Up.
Chris Domine is a husband, father, an athlete, even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris's kidneys were failing.
The doctor said if you don't do dialysis, if you don't get a kidney transplant, you are going to die.
Then Chris received a second chance, made possible by an organ donor.
Your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
Imagine what you could make possible. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
My name is Stephen Jaffe. The law firm's name is Farmer Jaffe. One of the beautiful things about Julius is he's always smiling, and it becomes infectious. The fact that Julius has a disability has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of work that he's done. Just a great person you want on your staff.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Hunger is a growing problem in our area, and a huge number of Suncoast residents are suffering in silence.
It could be your coworker,
your child's classmate,
or your friend fighting to secure their next meal. But you can help.
ABC7 is partnering with local organizations to help feed the Suncoast.
Go to mysuncoast.com/hunger to join the fight. Help us.
Help the hungry.
Meet Blue. Blue's not feeling well. The prescription? Generic medication. Blue wonders, do they really work as well as name brands? Yes, generics and name brand medications do work the same. Even though they may look different, generics have the same key ingredients. FDA approval is equally rigorous for generics to make sure they're as safe and effective as name brands. And Blue even saves some green, making him a little less, well, blue. Talk to your doctor about generics and visit fda.gov/generic drugs.
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now.
Checking primetime headlines, how often have we seen this? President Trump backing down, the president signing an executive order to address the crisis at the border separating migrant children from their families. He previously insisted the zero-tolerance immigration policy could not be ended by executive order and was the law that Democrats had to fix. ABC's Janae Norman is in Washington with what's changed.
President Trump now pushing to keep undocumented migrant families together at the border.
So we're going to have strong, very strong borders, but we're going to keep the families together.
Doing exactly what he said he couldn't do just 5 days ago.
Now, wait, you can't do it through an executive order.
The move comes amid bipartisan backlash and public outrage over audio and images of migrant children held in cages.
It makes me so sad. I cried last night when I heard those babies crying.
Senators from the president's own party unanimously agreeing separating families at the border must end. The executive order doing just that, allowing migrant families to remain in detention together as they await hearings. But the zero-tolerance policy of arresting illegal immigrants seeking asylum continues.
If you're really, really pathetically weak, the country's going to be overrun with millions of people. And if you're strong, then you don't have any heart.
The president saying his executive order will be matched by legislation. And there are a number of immigration bills being proposed, but so far, none seeming to have enough support to get passed.
We cannot allow a child to be a get out of jail free card and a get into the U.S. free ticket.
And one big question that remains about those more than 2,300 kids already separated from their families is how will they be reunited? Right now, there currently isn't a system or procedure in place that guarantees that will happen. Janae Norman, ABC News, Washington.
President Trump will meet with Queen Elizabeth during his visit to Britain next month. That's according to the U.S. ambassador to the U.K., Robert Wood Johnson. Speaking to British news outlet Sky News, Johnson says President's advance teams will be in the U.K. next week to sort out more details of the visit. The visit takes place on July 13th. The Queen has not publicly commented at the meeting. With just over 2 months until Florida's primary election, Palm Beach billionaire Jeff Green is officially entering a crowded Democratic slate of candidates seeking to replace outgoing Governor Rick Scott. Green now joins the 4 top Democrats: former Congresswoman Gwen Graham, former Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine, Orlando area businessman Chris King, and Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum in advance of the August 28th primary. The Palm Beach resident, who lives just 2 doors down from President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, traveled on his private plane to Tallahassee to file his qualifying papers, saying that he is the only candidate who has the money to win over voters.
As Democrats, we've had great ideas for the last 20 years, and we've had great candidates for 20 years. But you know what the problem is, too? Now, one candidate has had the wherewithal, the funds to get their message out to the people of Florida. So great ideas are wonderful. It's nice that they have them, but you know what? I want to win this election.
Green ran unsuccessfully for the U.S. Senate in 2010, earning just 31% of the vote in the Democratic primary, and also lost a bid in 1992 as a Republican for a congressional seat in California. The Kate Spade brand is donating more than $1 million to suicide prevention causes in honor of the company's founder. It will be making donations to the mental health awareness and suicide prevention causes. Spade co-founded the company in 1993 and sold her shares in 2006. The 55-year-old was found unresponsive on June 5th by her housekeeper. Her death was ruled as a suicide. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.